where to go, where to go, where to go.
The way I came to New York, and also the way I learned a lot of my organizing and media propaganda skills, was through the Yippies, through the Youth International Party. I organized a pot legalization protest at the University of Florida in Gainesville, which was the first one ever in the state of Florida. And a bunch of yippies came to it from Atlanta and brought down a paper that they were circulating, their own paper called the Yipster Times. And in the Yipster Times, it had all the contact information for the rest of the country, and they suggested that I come up here to New York and hang out with the center of the paper and the Yippies here at 9 Bleecker Street. So I did. I made a number of trips up here. I plugged in with like so much of what became my future life in New York through this place. A lot of my old friends that are my oldest friends in New York now are people that I originally met here when I first came here. And besides this place, which is a building, but it's now like an official museum of in the city certified, we had a rock and roll club called Studio 10 across the street. We had all kinds of crazy stuff going on over there. And right next door, the Pope of Pot had his pot delivery service, Church of Realized Fantasy. So it was kind of, on this one block, there was all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So eventually when I went to federal prison in 1984 and I got out, I said, I've had to leave the South. I can't organize in the South anymore. I don't want to live there. I'm going to New York. This is the first place I came, and I lived here in this very building for a few months, and part of the time I lived across the street at Studio 10. I met Abby Hoffman, I met Bob Fass from WBAI, I met Wavy Gravy, who was the MC at Woodstock, Daruba Ben Wahad eventually, most of the, now the people that started the Rainbow Family, Garrick Beck, Joni Freedom, I met people from the Living Theater here, Judith Molina, I mean, the list goes on and on. It was a place where I really was able to come to and not only have a place to live, but we made enough money to feed ourselves over at Studio 10 across the street, and we were doing all kinds of political activities in New York, and I learned so much from that, and the Yippies always have been, which I'm really good at myself now, is manipulating the media to cover what you're doing, and that's where I learned it all here.
People are going to look back on it and say, like, wasn't that pretty cruel of them to make him sleep out on the sidewalk in order to continue archiving his collection, which he donated to the library? I mean, I think it's pretty fucking cruel. But if they weren't doing that, I wouldn't have this protest going on out here. And I wouldn't have the students organizing, and I wouldn't be getting the media coverage that I'm getting, which is... if you read the recent story that came out today in the Villager newspaper, I'm getting out a lot of propaganda about homelessness, current statistics on homelessness. NYU, it makes them look really bad. So it's kind of a trade-off for me. I'm used to this. For the last year, I occupied at Zuccotti Park, got evicted from there. I went to Freedom Plaza occupation in D.C., got evicted from there. I went to Occupy Asheville, got arrested from there. The first person arrested in the state of North Carolina under the new Occupy tent laws, and actually the first person convicted for that. Went to Tampa and camped out at the Republican convention, went to Charlotte, got arrested at the Democratic convention, went back to D.C. and camped out in front of the Department of Veterans Affairs for a month.
And that was during what, Sandy?
Yeah, I actually
I remember you were out there, and I was a little worried about you.
Well, the funniest part about it
you weren't alone though. You were two other guys.
No, I wasn't, but it was pretty hard out there. They let us actually get up underneath the awning for the Department of Veterans Affairs and stay up, but I mean we were soaking wet. It was pretty hard. The funniest thing is that because we established a relationship with the area commander for Department of Homeland Security, who they had like watching over us there. And in fact, he refused to remove us off the sidewalk when the Department of Veterans Affairs wanted to power wash every morning the sidewalk. He told them he wasn't going to send his cops over there because it was the only time I've been part of an occupation where the cops actually agreed with what we were talking about.
Is it because they were veterans?
Because they were veterans, we were talking about the high rates of suicides, the crappy medical treatment people were getting from the VA, the trouble people had getting disability claims that were coming back. And he had one of his own friends in Homeland Security committed suicide by a cop who had an unloaded gun and then caused a disturbance, and the other cops came and shot him. So he actually had my phone number because, look, I don't care. I'm not afraid of them tracking me because I figure I did my time. I'm not scared. If they want to put me back in federal prison, they're going to do it one way or the other. So, you know, I gave my phone number and I had his card, and in case something was coming down over there that I might get him to intervene and stop it, I could call him. Well, he actually called me right in the middle of the hurricane and wanted to know if I was doing all right, if there was anything they could send over to help us. And I go, you know, send us over some soup and hot coffee. So they actually did that, you know. I mean, like I say, I'm not down with the Department of Homeland Security, but my philosophy has always been, if you can convince the cops not to fuck with you, and
That's
you're
progress.
doing an occupation, then you're better off doing that if you can maintain some kind of a amicable relationship with them and not like get up in their face and make them want to like hurt you. You're better off to do that.
Right,
You know?
progress.
With the bottom line is if they want to be the hard asses, I'll be a hard ass too. I'll make them arrest me. I won't get up and move. But if I don't have to go that far, I'd rather not do that. In fact, like that's what happened here when they called the sergeant over from the 6th Precinct. You know, we had a big dialogue about homelessness, about why I was out here, about like whether or not I was legal. And he actually, like in the end, left and said, you know, okay, John, take care of yourself, and hasn't been back. So, you know, that's been my philosophy.
So do you think that in a way you have a sort of a talent of getting people to think for themselves? Because a lot of times people put on a uniform or whoever they're working for, and it's like whatever idiocy that they pull down the pike, that they throw at them, that they're supposed to enforce, they do it without thinking.
Look, I was a photojournalist photographing cops doing all kinds of shit on the Lower East Side for 20 years. I've dealt with cops like in all kinds of situations where they beat me up, where they arrested me, where they didn't. At this point in time, I'm pretty good with dealing cops. Like, of course, the first thing I pull out of my bag is like, you know, I'm a honorary discharged veteran of the U.S. military, which automatically puts them off a little bit as far as being a hard ass on me.
Right.
I've got my, you know, way of dealing with them down, and I'm pretty used to doing with it. But if you can get them to engage in either debate or conversation, it's good. You know, it's better than just, oh, fuck you, we're going to arrest you if you don't move. If I can convince them to see the humanity in me and what I'm doing and not want to be a hard ass on me, I think that's a good thing, and I'm pretty good at it. I mean, after all the Asheville cops like were out there to arrest me at Occupy, and now I'd only been back in Asheville for about a week when that happened. They already knew I was back. They sent an undercover cop over there to say, oh, you're John Penley. I go, how the hell do you know that? They go, we already seen video of you. So
your reputation precedes you?
But I'm a gentleman. If you don't get rough with me, I don't get rough with you. And after that was over with, I don't know how many times I'd be in downtown Asheville and the cops would come up on me and want to debate me about stuff. I mean, I debated cops about gay marriage, but they started calling me brother after a while, and I'd rather have that kind of relationship, you know, where they're not looking to get me than where they are. I mean, in New York is very hard. In Zuccotti, it didn't matter what you did, they were going to get you, you know. And I remember thinking, like, when we were first down there and there were all these people telling, oh, the police, we love you, you're part of the 99%. I'm going to myself, let's see how long that lasts, you know, because I knew the NYPD, they don't fucking, it's very hard to get them to be humanitarian. Like smaller places, it's easier. They just don't want to do it. They just want to bust heads and arrest people. And it took about like 3 weeks or a month before people stopped all that. You're part of the 99%. And near the end of Zuccotti Park, the cops would show up and it would be, "Fuck you, pigs," you know. Like nobody was even remotely thinking about trying because they'd already been beat up, arrested, put through central booking, you know, given the tour, which is like in itself one of the most incredible experiences of New York that you can get, and a political awakening. Like, I mean, the first day when I came up to Yippie House, I was arrested with a bunch of yippies who were in the rock and roll club, and they sent in the fire department to tell us they were going to close the club down and get us out of it. And some of us refused to leave. So my very first day in New York, for the first time, I ended up going to central booking. And back then, they could keep you like for a lot longer than they do now. So I went through central booking with a whole bunch of yippies and spent 4 days in jail, and ended up with Bill Kunstler as my lawyer when I got out. But that completely solidified my relationship with all the yippies. They got to know me, and you know, I was part of the gang after that. So
It also solidified your relationship, it seems, with the NYPD.
that's very true. And but what I want to say is that a lot of these kids who never in their lives would imagine they would be brutalized by the police and put through central booking have routinely had that done more than once, or at least once, but some of them multiple times. And they came back out and they're still out there fighting. So that got to tell you something, that they created a hardcore resistance element by doing what they did. And honestly, it was the police brutality that kicked Wall Street into Occupy Wall Street into high gear. I mean, I was down there the first night. If the police had not pepper sprayed those girls blatantly, and that got out all over the media, it was starting to dwindle down there. When that happened, a whole bunch more people showed up down there. And then when they did that mass arrest on the Brooklyn Bridge, it just exploded. So if the police had been smart, they wouldn't have done all the police brutality from the beginning. They would have just kind of left it alone and it would have died out. Because of what they did, it became an international movement. And you know, I don't know how many, everybody knows what Occupy Wall Street was. So, you know, thank you to the NYPD and their brutality. We became such a big movement, and they really created a hardcore resistance among a lot of young kids.